See, I never know when it's actually going to.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. We like to start things weird. How you doing? Thanks for being here. Thanks for joining us on this wonderful. I can. I don't know if they can. Folks, if you hear squeaky farts, it's actually a chair. Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here. So we're going to get into the news that your police in your city very well may soon be monitoring you in your own yard, maybe in your own house if they can see you through the window, with drones.
If you're in New York, not very soon, like this weekend.
And if you're in New York City, already happening. We're going to get into that story. We're going to get into new EPA rules that are fucking horrific. We're going to get into what you haven't heard about how horribly workers at airlines have it and why they're likely going to strike soon. All of that coming up today. Please click thumbs up and subscribe and follow if you're at Rumble and YouTube and everything else. And we love the comments. Throw the comments in there. Are you concerned about the invasion of privacy by our police that continues to grow every day in new technologically wonderful ways? You know, it shows how brilliant we are that we have new ways of invading people's privacy. But oh yeah, I should mention I'm joined by Eleanor Goldfield.
Oh, you did not?
No, I forgot.
God.
Why? You didn't say you were joined by the camp.
It is not my job to introduce myself. It is your job.
I thought you were on it. But so let's start off with this. Here we are. New York police. Go ahead.
You can't read half the headline and then. Over to you, Ted.
The NYPD. I'm getting criticism left and right today. I'm just a shit host.
Well,
the NYPD will use drones to monitor backyard parties this weekend, spurring privacy concerns. I love that I find this one fascinating because normally the way they slowly infiltrate your lives with new technology is they go, the NYPD is going to use drones to chase pedophiles down the streets. Oh. They normally start that way, and then everyone goes, well, I am definitely for getting the pedophiles, so do whatever they need to do. This one, they're like, we're just going to watch your parties.
Well, and they preface it by saying, this was the assistant NYPD commissioner said in a press conference, Kaz Daughtry said, quote, if a caller states there's a large crowd, a large party in a backyard, we're going to be utilizing our assets to go up and go check on the party, end quote. Okay, so two things. One is having a large backyard party is not illegal.
Not illegal, but also where the fuck are you in New York City that you have a yard? That's incredible. I lived in New York for 12 years. I never saw a yard, but
I wonder if this also applies to like rooftop gardens or what have you.
I'm sure it does. Rooftop parties, absolutely. I did see plenty of rooftop parties, but
somewhat
rooftop parties.
Okay. But anyway, regardless, this is absolutely terrifying because this is also suggesting that they are going to invade your privacy without any kind of fear or evidence of a crime being committed. Now, a lot of times, and I still think it's fucked up, we have the expectation of losing our access to privacy if we're being accused of a crime. So, okay, the cops are going to come raid your house if you if there's video of you murdering your neighbor or something, you know. Okay,
or even if just the neighbor's been murdered and there's video of you dancing on your porch with a bloody knife, you know.
Yeah,
something if it's like just something that makes them think it could be you, then we kind of are like, oh, okay, that guy's privacy should be invaded,
right? But this isn't even pre-crime. It is like, had no intention of committing the crime, we're going to spy on you anyway. Because what the fuck crime would you be committing if you're having a party outside on the weekend and then there's just a fucking police drone above your head? It's like, this is just the panopticon perspective on surveillance. Like, oh, well, we're going to surveil everybody and that way they never will commit a crime. So it's not even pre-crime. It is just preemptive, make sure nobody ever does anything because they can't, because they're always being spied on. Like, that is the level that and they're using
hide in your basement
parties as an excuse and expecting people to be like, yes, that is an appropriate reason to send a drone into my backyard. Like, what?
And of course, this is just another step in ongoing fascist policing system that's been going on for generations. We all acted like, I mean, we've acted throughout most of my life as if all the police are just trying to make things right and protect the thingamajig. Like, but they're really there to, I mean, their two main things are to protect the property of the wealthy and to perpetrate the completely illegal drug war, which is by definition a war on our own people. But I guess a third reason is so that if there comes the time that people are protesting in a large way against inequality, against the ruling elite, if the lower classes actually unite into a large scale protest against the ruling elite, then there are already hundreds of thousands of kind of fascist troops waiting on the street corners to deal with that. So that's one of the biggest reasons that police are standing around all over our streets, all over the place. I mean, per capita, we have one of the largest police forces in the world. And, you know, they're murdering dozens of people every single day. If you include the Lancet Medical Journal's fact that it's actually double what we believe it is, they kill well over 2,000 people every year. And meanwhile, you have countries like Iceland, where since their founding, the police have killed one dude. A single dude since Iceland started has been killed by police.
Here's what they're choosing as the start of Iceland.
It's like 1940s.
Okay.
Still,
so like technically it's been there since, you
no, they put there was
okay.
nothing there. They dropped a bunch of sandbags in the middle of the ocean and started Iceland.
There's actually, for those who don't know, Iceland has an interesting history vis-a-vis the Vikings, and Iceland also used to have these lush forests that are not there anymore because the Vikings deforested it. Interesting little tidbit.
Fucking Vikings.
Okay, so I'm not quite done with this story, so don't click on. I see you hovering with your little.
I was going to click back to the story.
Okay.
There's going to be more story.
So the police said that they have used drones in the past, quote, for non-priority and priority calls, which again, non-priority is it's not fucking important. There's not a violent crime being committed. Why the fuck are you spying on people with drones? But this is just an extreme upsurge. Data maintained by the city, this is Associated Press, shows that the police department has used drones for public safety or emergency responses, which public safety can be anything, right? That's one of those catch-all terms like, oh, it was just a public safety concern. Like you can always get somewhere with that.
Well, and as we know, our policing believes that arresting every Black person is for public safety.
Right.
Yeah.
So they've used drones 125 times this year, up from 4 times in 2022. And the mayor, who is a former police captain, by the way, said that he wants to see police further embrace the endless potential, quote, of drones, citing Israel's use of the technology as a blueprint after visiting the country last week. Ah, yes.
Thank goodness we're getting Israeli policing.
Because who knows more about operating the world's largest open-air prison than the fucking Israelis? So here you have it. And this is something that people have been talking about for quite some time. It's called the deadly exchange. The exchange of ideas between Israel and U.S. police departments is very strong and very disgusting. And this is there are also no public guidelines on how the NYPD should use. So there aren't even guidelines, right? And guidelines, as we know, are always broken, but there aren't even fucking guidelines on when and how the NYPD is supposed to use and deploy drones. So it's really just a free-for-all. And so, of course, they're going to use them for your backyard gatherings. Of course, because there's no reason not to. There's no legislation. There aren't even guidelines.
Well, I was also wondering what exactly they're going to fucking see from the air in a backyard party. Okay, drinking beer. Well, that's legal. A bunch of people. That's legal. Loud noise. That's legal. What? I don't know. That you have like you're loitering in your own yard. I mean, yeah, there could be drug use, but most of the kind of drug use that would be at a party is not going to be something that's like visible by a drone. Not a lot of people are just like have platters of Coke they're just passing around.
I gotta say, the first thing that came to mind when I thought of this, when I heard this story, was okay, so somebody complains that there's a loud noise or that this party is getting too loud. So then a drone comes. And I know this from just parties that I've hosted, is that you're playing music relatively loud. So everyone's kind of speaking loudly to begin with. And then you might get passionate about something that you're talking to somebody with, and you're going like this, and you're being very animated. And to someone outside of it, it could look like you're having an altercation. And so then all of a sudden you're having this passionate conversation about tube socks. And next thing you know, there's a fucking drone in your backyard and the cops are at your door saying that they are here to deal with a disturbance. Like, this is how that shit escalates.
Yeah.
And so a regular conversation that you're just having at a loud volume, which again is not unusual, particularly for New Yorkers, like this could then fucking escalate to the cop, as Lee puts it, serial killers with guns showing up at your door because you're having a loud conversation with a friend.
And this brings us back to one of our refrains, folks. Do not call the cops. Don't call the cops unless you have an active hatchet murderer behind you and you're running on the phone.
I'd say in front of you. It's
then in front of you?
Yeah.
And you're running towards them?
No, I mean, if the axe murderer is anywhere 360 in a proximity to you, I don't think they just have to be behind you.
All right. Then we'll give advice number 1. If an axe murderer is in front of you, turn around. Okay, go the other way.
No, I don't know.
That's
a good idea.
Step 1. Don't run away from them.
Well,
they're not bears.
You
can't play dead.
They could throw the axe.
Yeah, but they're coming closer to you.
I
They have to throw it less far.
See, but I think actually axes might be better.
All right, folks. If you listen to Eleanor, run towards axe murderers.
I didn't say run towards you, dipstick. I'm just saying, I feel uncomfortable turning my back on an axe murder. That's all I'm saying.
Back to my point. Unless there's an axe murderer in your vicinity facing you.
Agreed.
After you in one way or another. Apparently they're in front of you, but they're not moving towards you. In one way or another, don't call the cops. Like, don't call them for loud noises. Don't call them because someone said something mean. Don't call them because I saw someone behaving weird. He was washing his pants in a public fountain. Well, all right, that guy's got some mental illness or maybe he's having fun. But either way, guys with guns are not the solution. Generally speaking, guys with guns, never the solution. That doesn't help anything. Maybe they kill someone. Maybe they just wreck someone's life. Maybe they wreck your life. Who knows? Don't call the cops.
And don't hit the microphone. Agreed.
You really have it out for me on this episode.
I don't want you to hit the microphone because
15th thing I've done wrong since we started.
Jesus Christ. It affects the sound.
Uh-huh.
And don't get mad at me because you didn't introduce me. That's your fault.
All right. Are we moving to the next story? Shall we get to the airline pilots?
Sure.
Did you just pull a Mitch McConnell? I'm sorry. I already covered that clip yesterday. I should have saved it for today because I feel like you would have had a lot of fun with the Mitch McConnell short circuit.
I mostly had fun with how they responded to it because them trying to play it off like this is a totally normal thing to happen is, that's priceless.
Yeah. For them to pretend it's, and I think they announced that they have no health concerns for him.
Oh, no, that's right. There was a fucking congressional doctor who said that he was totally clear for work. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm sure that doctor is an unbiased opinion. Fucking Jesus.
You know what occurred to me? Mitch McConnell has been going into glitch mode, which our friend wrote Glitch Mode, the song by the K-pop band that was hugely popular.
It's not by the K-pop.
By her, but sung by the K-pop band. One of the K-pop bands. But he's in glitch mode. That's what he is. He's buffering.
Dude, that's
all right. So now let's get to a possible strike, but the reason we're covering this is not just because it's a possible strike by flight attendants. I guess is that what they're called now? I feel like it changes every year, but flight attendants. But
well, because
it's a really fascinating video. Do you want to set it up?
no, I think the video speaks for itself.
Okay. Here we go. Well, you let me know what part you want to play.
Hey guys.
Well, you
my
can
name
skip
is Derek.
forward. So this is well, let me just do this. So this is an American Airlines flight attendant, and he is going to share what a day in the life looks like. And in the beginning, he's talking about how he basically survives off of coffee because he never gets any rest. So I'm going to skip him making coffee because I don't think that that's like really that necessary.
I just got off of a 4-day trip yesterday, and the night before last, I think I got maybe a full 2 hours of sleep after a 10-hour day at work. I don't know if I'm the only flight attendant that does this, but I do not unpack my suitcase other than like dirty clothes. I work so much that it's easier for me to just kind of keep it all in my suitcase and then, wash some of it when I get home.
So I made it to work. Our airline, you have to be signed in at work an hour before your flight. We start boarding the plane about 30 to 35 minutes prior to departure. However, our pay doesn't start until the boarding door is closed on the plane. So even though we're required to be signed in by, an hour before departure, and you can get into trouble if you're not signed in on time, my pay essentially does not start until that door is closed. If they're
Okay, so let's address this part.
Like, okay, so he I don't know if you can all see that, but for folks listening, the video while he's talking about this is him getting to the airport. So he's parked his car. He gets on the bus to take him from the parking lot to the terminal. And he has to check in, as he said, an hour before takeoff. This is all unfucking paid time.
Anyone who's ever gone to a plane knows how long it can fucking take. If you have to leave your car, take a
Right.
shuttle from a hotel, all those things take fucking forever.
Mhm. So that is unpaid time, which is absurd because, in my opinion, as soon as you put on that uniform, as soon as you like basically get into character, then that is when your job starts. It's like, as an actor, you shouldn't get paid just when you're on stage. You should get paid when you walk in to the theater and put on your fucking costume.
Right. Or all the other jobs that, it's like I was a server at a restaurant for a few months after I finished college. And it's like, often they tell you to get there hour and a half, 2 hours before you start serving, because you have to do all the side work. I think they called it like you got to fucking clean up the kitchen or roll the silverware, all this crazy shit. And you should get paid for that. Like,
Yeah.
you're fucking there way before you're serving food
And
to
you're
someone.
laboring.
And you're laboring. Absolutely. So this guy's
Oh, sorry. I thought I was just
Yeah.
going to say, keep going.
yeah. So this guy's talking about how much they don't get paid for.
there's weather or if there's a maintenance issue, if that door is not closed, essentially we're sitting there not getting paid at all.
I think most flight attendants would agree that boarding is one of the busiest and most hectic parts of our day. It's where everything goes wrong. To not be compensated for that is really rough. You're getting paid half of everything you're doing that day. I mean, imagine coming into work at, 7 a.m. and you don't get home until 8 o'clock that night. So, you were working for 12, 13 hours, but you only took home about 5 of that.
About to get on the plane, so I will see you guys in Boston. So made it to Boston, everything was good. The flight was pretty easy. I forgot to meal prep, so I'm here eating an overly priced $18 pizza in the Boston airport.
I'm sitting here for 3 hours once again, you're not compensated for that.
We're in contract negotiations right now with the airline. We have been for quite some time.
So a couple of things, like, okay, you're sitting there at the airport, which you have to be at because that's where he's flying out of. It doesn't give you enough time to like go into the city of Boston and like see some shit. You're stuck there and you're
Right.
not getting paid for it. And I also, this is probably not something that they're, you know, negotiating about, but he should also have access to, at the very least, cheaper food at the airport. So I don't know if that means that American Airlines has some deal with all of the airports that they fly into, but all of their crew should get like 75% off or some shit. Because if they're stuck at the airport, then they have to eat at the airport. It's not like you or I could just go to the you know, Starbucks and get like a shitty whatever sandwich. It's like they're stuck there and they shouldn't have to meal prep when they're flying.
But
Like, it's not like you just bike to work, like, do, and I got my little lunchbox. Like, what the fuck?
And to me, this is representative. I mean, maybe it's a bit more exaggerated than a lot of jobs, but to me, this is representative of the wage theft that goes on across America in so many different jobs. It's not just flight attendants. It's everybody who has to commute an hour to work and doesn't get paid for any of that commuting time, and you know, has to take lunchtime that they aren't paid for. It's like, you should get paid for the day. Like you're out on, especially when you're out on some site and you can't get to, it's not like you can easily go to some lunch place or whatever. Like it's just, all of this is forms of wage theft. And of course, to take it to even another level, this is what Uber and Lyft and everything has done to, you know, transportation. It's not paying people for any time except when they actively have a passenger in the car. And even that is, they have an algorithm game where you're getting paid more for some trips, less for others, so that you never know like what you're getting paid, which keeps workers on their toes so that they can't, you know, settle into a normal life and expect normal income. You know, this is also, we're seeing it with Amazon, where you're now having packages delivered to your door by just like a dude in his car, who's part of an app share with Amazon or whatever to deliver their packages. But that means Amazon doesn't have to give him any perks or any benefits. They can fire him on the drop of a hat or whatever. So
Yeah. And so basically this, I mean, we don't need to play the rest of the video because it's basically just highlighting how fucked this is. So as he said, they're in negotiations right now. Flight attendants at American Airlines, 26,000 of them, have authorized a strike. And what that means is that if they decide that a strike is necessary, it's already pre-authorized. So they just do it. And
99% voted yes.
yeah. Well, and I can't, because of watching this video, I was like, I'm sorry, you don't get paid for boarding. Like, I feel there are times when I'm boarding a plane and I'm like, I should get paid for this shit because I helped that woman with her suitcase and this is bullshit. And that guy's a fucking asshole. And I've had to sit next to him for the past 5 minutes. It's like, I can't imagine.
She's kind of
having
a more straight talking flight attendant.
having to corral all those people and not getting paid for it as if it was like something that you enjoyed doing. You know what I would do? I would walk on that plane and just close the door. I'd be like, my clock starts now because this is bullshit. And
while the flight attendant is saying to someone trying to fit like a bag the size of a golf cart into the overhead carry-on bin, they're like, so sir, that's a little bit oversized. Eleanor's standing there like, hey, your fucking bag's not gonna fit in there, asshole.
well, and it's like,
And so we should all tip Eleanor.
well, okay. All jokes aside, can you like just think back to the flights that you've taken and how nice flight attendants have been? And they're not getting, and I'm not saying that you should always just think that, oh, someone's being nice because they're getting paid, but it's like, it is miserable to board a plane, and to corral the people doing it must be miserabler. And so this is remarkable that they don't get paid for that fucking time. It is absurd. And fuck yeah, for authorizing that strike, and absolutely 100% behind them.
And yet again, this shows that workers have the power really right now, which is why so many workers are striking to try and demand better treatment. But it's also why the Fed is raising interest rates, to try and create a recession, to try and get people booted from their jobs so that it becomes a corporate market again, and workers don't have that power. So far, they haven't really succeeded. Workers still feel that they have a lot of power and they're willing to strike, and we're seeing it in Hollywood, which is still on strike, and UPS nearly on strike, but basically the reason they won a better contract was because they also have power. And UAW is the big three car makers are on the cusp of a strike. A lot of worker power going around.
Yeah, that's good to see.
Absolutely. Okay, let's get to now we're gonna move into some bad news.
I mean, that was also bad news, let's be honest, because like their conditions have not improved.
Yes. The
Uh
EPA, which always does amazing work. I covered them recently. I actually did a thing on them on EPA recently where there was a petition being put forward asking the EPA to add 1,000 toxic chemicals to their toxic chemical list because they haven't added one in like 70 years or something, like something ridiculous, 60 years.
but I hear we don't have toxic chemicals anymore, so it's okay.
Oh, did we remove those?
Mm,
I must have missed the news
Yeah.
that day.
yeah. It's actually just a conspiracy that they want you to believe so
Tox-
that you buy filters.
Toxic chemicals.
So this was a bit ago that the Supreme Court, in its infinite wisdom, ruled that this was in May, that wetlands must have a quote continuous surface connection to streams, oceans, rivers, and lakes in order to be subject to federal regulations on pollution. Because
Yeah, because a wetland doesn't exist unless it has a very specific kind of what? Kind of what?
So this again speaks to how our paradigm, and this is something I talk about in my new film.
Her new film, which you can find at tothetreesfilm.com, award-winning filmmaker Eleanor Goldfield out with her second documentary, her first being Hard Road of Hope, that won all kinds of awards. I won't list them here because we all need to move on with our days before the next half hour, but check it out.
Thanks. So this just speaks to that paradigm that like, oh, this is an ecosystem unto itself, and so it doesn't connect to the others unless there's a physical connection through that stream or that lake or that river or whatever the fuck. It's like, what, you fucking idiots? Like literally the rain that falls on us may have started in fucking India. Like that's how the world works, you fucking penis wrinkles. Like it does not, there's no such thing as a completely detached ecosystem. They
Is
all
that their
rely on
argument?
each other.
Is that their argument, that if it's not connected to
Well, this is the argument
another
that
body of water?
wetlands must have a continuous surface connection to streams, oceans, rivers, and lakes to be subject to federal regulations on pollution. So they are not worthy of that protection if they are a wetland unto themselves.
This is so nonsense. It's tough for me to even like
I
comprehend
know.
it because so then what stops them? So they remove all regulation of wetlands. What would stop any company from just trucking their pollution to a wetland? Like, what's it matter if it's connected to a stream or not? Oh, we can just, you just got to pollute a half mile down there.
Because clearly, if it's not connected to another body of water, Lee, there's no such thing as pollution because it doesn't spread clearly. Because you can only be connected to another body of water if that pollution is going to spread. Otherwise, it doesn't. That's just science. So this affects 63% of wetlands. 63%, which a not unrelated bit of information here. Lahaina, the northwestern part of Maui that was absolutely decimated by the fires.
I have this story I can pull up. Go ahead.
Is naturally a wetland.
Used to be a wetland.
Well, I said was naturally.
Yeah, no, I know.
As in, yeah, because naturally the Hilton wasn't there.
I'm not
initially.
correcting. I'm rephrasing.
Right. The Hilton is not a naturally occurring.
Not a naturally occurring Hilton.
No.
It's one of those. It's one of those synthetic
Was
Hiltons.
put in later.
They put in a synthetic Hilton, man.
So it's naturally a wetland. And was at one point the capital of the Hawaiian kingdom because of its rich water sources. and private entities between the 800s until today basically diverted that water.
Or perverted it.
Both, yes, well played. 75% of West Maui's water is controlled by private entities, and 25% is controlled by the county government. And this, like that diversion of the water, caused, in a lot of sense, in a lot of ways, the destruction that we've seen on Maui. And this is not this is not unlike what we've seen, for instance, in southern Louisiana, with the loss of so much of the land due to climate change, because the oil and gas companies destroy so much of the wetlands, which act as a natural barrier to hurricanes, to floods, to all kinds of shit. They act as that sponge, and then you remove those, you destroy those, and all of a sudden you've got epic fucking biblical style flooding all of the time because you've ruined that ecosystem. So, I mean, for many reasons, the idea that it's only bad if it's connected to another body of water is fucking dumb. But if for no other reason, this shit, wetlands in and of themselves are protective spaces against the worst aspects of climate change, be they floods or fires. Like, they are a natural barrier to our own dumb shittery. Like, they are trying to help us survive our own dumb fuckedness, and our response is, you're not fucking important. Like,
yeah, we are part of this natural world, and we have decided to pretend as if we're not, and we think we need to conquer it, when in fact, when we conquer it, we die. So the idea of like, oh no, we're this separate thing, humans are this separate thing, and we just get to do what we want with all of the other things, is just utter stupidity. And of course, now we're seeing the ramifications, not just in climate crisis, but in so many other things, the plastics around the world, and the killing of 50% of all land species over the past 40 years. And we're seeing the ramifications of us pretending we're not the natural world. We spawned from this natural world on this earth, and now we act like we are some sort of other thing. Now, there's an argument to be made that we're now a parasite, I guess. But.
Yeah. Well, there's a movement now ongoing to try and use this disaster, as opposed to shifting it to the private. To the further bastardization, the colonization and capitalization of Maui, to shift that and instead use this as a time to ensure that there can be regenerative practices. And so I know that there are Native Hawaiian groups and mutual aid groups that are trying to basically protect these places that are currently destroyed, but to rehabilitate them in a way that is regenerative for that ecosystem, as opposed to making a fucking Hilton.
I find it crazy that sorry.
That's on my face. So do I. For those of you listening, Lee, once again,
I don't
share the screen over my face.
It's tough to know which of the little toggles is the right toggle.
You should make a note. This toggle.
Do I draw on Sharpie
fucks up Eleanor's face.
Do I draw it on the screen in Sharpie?
However, you got to get through it. You could also use a Post-it.
We post it on the screen.
Yeah.
That'll be great. See, now you've just dove out of your view, so you did that to yourself.
I'm not wanted here.
I find it crazy that 75%. I mean, not crazy. I'm appalled, not shocked, that 75% of water in Maui, West Maui, is controlled by private companies.
Like what?
So they can do whatever the fuck they want with it. And obviously they're not using it in the right ways, or else you wouldn't have had such extreme fire disaster. But it's, this is the selling off of the natural world to corporate entities. This is inverted totalitarianism, and these corporate entities rule and extract the natural world around us. And we go, well, that company's doing well on the stock market.
Well, and of course that you can see that direct relationship. Anytime something good happens for people or planet, the stock market tanks, and you're like, if there was ever more proof that you needed that capitalism is shit, just that specific relationship that like whatever's good for us is terrible for the market. Like that's all you really need to know.
Yeah, it's very true. It's what was my old line that judging the health of society by looking at the stock market is like judging the health of a dying man by looking at the leeches on his skin
Yeah.
and going, these leeches look really healthy. Like they look happy. They're not complaining. They look plump. So we're doing fine.
You know, my mom once tried to get some leeches.
Yeah. For those who want the inside story, Eleanor's mom is kind of a backcountry Swedish woman. And
She's a mountain woman.
She's a mountain woman. And so she was in Charlotte,
But like
North
a
Carolina.
sophisticated mountain woman?
Charlotte, North Carolina, calling hospitals asking for leeches. And for some odd reason, they didn't have any.
I'm actually kind of surprised they didn't send men in white coats to like come take her away. I'm actually kind of.
I'm putting it in Southern because this is how my grandmother would have been in Richmond, Virginia. I've got a wound I need some leeches for. Are there any leeches down where you are?
But that is not how my mom said.
No, your mom says nothing. I'm not going to do that accent. That's it. That's on you to do that
But
accent.
I don't even hear it. That's what's so funny. I was like 20 before I realized that my mom had a strong Swedish accent. I was just like, oh, is this? I just thought this is how moms sound.
Her mother sounds like the Swedish chef on Sesame Street, and she doesn't notice.
I don't hear it. It's so funny.
All right, so I wanted to get I find it interesting to get your take on this. We have not discussed it before, but it's people standing up against the Republicans' attack on many of the books that are being ripped out of schools, and I think this is one of those stories where it's like, well, it's not that I support Republicans ripping books out of schools, but I think the problem is far larger than just that. Here we go. Oh, and by the way, folks, as we talk about this in a moment, we're going to justrumble.com/Lee Camp as well as my locals page. So that's where this discussion will continue. We've got other stories for you as well. Rumble.com/Lee Camp and my locals page. And it's free to watch there on Rumble. So feel free to jump over there and keep watching with us and make sure to click follow. What's up?
But before you go, know that tomorrow is a special day.
It is my bar mitzvah. No, it is
He's finally a man.
It is my first hour-long stand-up kind of sit-down comedy show in 5 years. I appreciate the promotion, but I don't know that anyone can hear anything when you do that. In 5 years, and that's tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. And the tickets, the easiest way to get the tickets is just at the top of my Twitter feed, Twitter @Lee Camp. It's called Simple Ticks is the site, but it's only $5 and it's going to be a full hour. I'm going to do a full hour of stand-up comedy, the stand-up comedy, but I'll be seated. So it'll be sit-down stand-up comedy. And we have a special guest.
Not me.
Well, you'll be there as well, but we
I'm
have
not the
another
special
we have
guest.
another special guest. And
I'm the not special guest.
that is not true at
No,
all.
I'm the MC.
Everyone let Eleanor know she's special.
I'm the MC.
So that is tomorrow, and it's only $5. So what do you have to lose? Honestly, what?
even have to put on
do you have to lose?
pants.
You don't even have to put on pants. You don't have to put on shirts. Yeah, nothing. You don't have to put on your toupee. You can wear your toupee as your pants.
Do people still do toupees?
Is toupee still a thing?
I feel like I haven't seen one in a while.
If anyone out there has a toupee, please leave a comment about your toupee.
I feel like I just haven't seen one in a while, so I feel like they're not doing.
Please
as
leave
much.
a comment about what type of rodent your toupee looks like most.
Dude, there was one guy at the J when I worked. It was bad. It was like a totally different color. Like his hair was just full on white, and then the top was like black. And I was like, "What?"
I always love that when they don't bother with matching the color.
Yeah, I'm like,
It's like whatever. Just put
either you gotta dye what's left
just lay
black
it.
or go with the gray
just
toupee, man.
lay a thing over top of it. Okay, we're heading over to rumble.com/Lee Camp. Free to watch over there. So join us over there.
Someone's asking if it's going to be a crowd work show.
No, it is not going to be a crowd. I'm sorry. Although I feel like that would be more difficult to do on Zoom. Not impossible, but it just seems Seems rather difficult, but anyway.
It would have like a classroom feel because like people would have to like raise their hands and you'd have to like scroll through and look to see who's raising their hands and then be like, oh, okay, yes, Steve, where are you from? Like that. I feel like the pace would just be totally.
Well, the
wrong.
other thing is when I was in comedy clubs, crowd work, I never liked crowd work because most of it rested on the same
Tacky shit.
kind of jokes, over and over again. The only person I saw do it kind of really uniquely and well is Judah Friedlander. It wasn't about the same style as other crowd work comedians, but the other thing was it rested a lot on like what the person looked like, or like asking them a question, and if they pause, you make fun of them not knowing the answer. And like with Zoom,
You can't really do that
you're like,
because what if their mics
yeah,
like
their
cutting
mics,
out?
where they're,
Yeah,
exactly. All right, one more second, and then we're off to the